and we're gonna ask DJ what's new with you. Turn it
All right,
over.
so before we jumped in, we were talking a little bit about like me seeing the mayor. That was actually a while ago, maybe last week, or it feels so long ago because I've been doing so much. But what's interesting is I actually got into a meeting with the mayor, where he was talking to some religious leaders. So actually, Christopher Leon Johnson of material, but he actually was angry because he got called to ask to go cover that particular event. Well, anyways, I knew the mayor was going to be there, and the fact is that he's still the sitting mayor, and he's actually, struggling really, really hard right now. I've actually petitioned for him in Flatbush, and also I have people that have done it in Harlem. And to tell you the truth, the black community itself, I have I have footage on my channel. The black community is actually back in Cuomo. In the large, just from my own experience, we have video footage of a guy looking disgusted when we say the word Eric Adams. It's pretty extreme. I did not expect this, right? But because
Yeah,
he's in such trouble, that actually gives hopefully my coalition a chance to get some things addressed. As you know, he gave millions of dollars in a giveaway to the not-for-profits. They're fighting each other to, slide the money to the people that matter, and that's the not-for-profit industrial complex. So that really does line up,
exactly.
right? Yeah. So that's exactly lining with our work right here. Now, I did actually get to see him at the meeting. I've not put the footage out yet, but the fact of the matter is that you'll see when I put it out, right? I'm still trying to make these deals with Eric Adams now, so I haven't put it out yet, but I'm about to because it's not really moving forward. And you could see. Let me show you. I'll tell you what happens in the meeting. It's crazy. People bring up their issues and they'll be like, "Oh, we're scared." Blah blah blah. It's like I got a uh, point person for you. This is their phone number. This is their email. They're gonna work with you and all this other thing, right? So the thing is that I had asked for something called I'm working with people that have been wrongfully incarcerated, right? And the thing is that there's something called the Civilian Review Board that's supposed to hold the police accountable. There's a lot of, just so you know, in New York City, there's a lot of duplication of services, right? So there's going to be your Civilian Review Board, you're going to have your commissioner, you're going to have a whole bunch of different people that are supposed to hold the police accountable. The mayor, right? No one knows who's, everybody passing the buck. But the Civilian Review Board is supposed to be civilian, but it's all political appointees. So I said, how about, right, having, and also what about justice for Nolan Farrell and getting his case looked at? He's got a letter from the district attorney's office saying that, the evidence used against him was faulty. No point person was given to me. In fact, somebody else tried to get in the way and not allow me to ask the question. But Mayor Adams called on me because I had brought a sign with his picture on it saying, "Get Mayor Adams on the ballot." Right, that was my petitioning work. So I was leveraging that. So a lot of people get mad at me and say, blah, 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 how could you do this for Adams? You suck. But he's still the sitting mayor. I can still really work these leverages. But you can see on the footage that I have not yet released, which I will be releasing very soon, shows that I was not given any point person. He was not following up with anything with me. And he just said, thanks a lot for your support, and nothing moved forward. So we've been on 3 cycles of different, including Melinda Katz, the current Queens DA. We've been through 3 cycles of trying to get this addressed. George Grasso was running around with people in the Republican Party. Our issue was not addressed. It's still not being addressed. This is, once again, the little people. Sorry, just to wrap it up. But the little people have to get personally involved. I'm going to add in this last part. The fact of the matter is that you see Trump, okay, and you see Trump doing backflips for Israel, right? And the fact of the matter is that it's just Trump is not Jewish. He doesn't personally care about this issue. It's just about political power and mobilization. And the fact of the matter is that community is very patched in, very politically mobile, very politically engaged, and they get what they want. And if you want what you want, it doesn't matter what moral correctness you have. It's about power. So jump in and get in with this Rep My Block thing and join the county committee. That's it. Okay, go ahead. You
Right.
said
I just had
something.
question.
Mhm.
I just had thank. What was the last part you said?
Oh, you said I was going to transition. You were going to talk about some budget stuff, right? Or you could ask
Well,
about
I
what I have.
want.
Yeah.
I just had questions about. You said you're going to release it on where, on YouTube, or
Yeah, I
where's it?
should.
Where will people can follow you by just DJ on YouTube?
DGL7. Yeah, it's going to be a while though. Yeah. I'm dropping a video soon on the largest Asian American mobilization in New York City history. And I just dropped another video with Mother Pigeon, which was kind of a fun project. I really like Mother Pigeon. So she's a friend.
Cool. Cool. And then I was nodding because that's exactly right. Eric and all of them, they'll just say yes, yes, yes. Oh, we'll follow up, and then no follow up. There's zero follow up. That's why we need transparency. I say we want to see all the people that have been burned by these yes, 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 Mr. Yes. Yeah, oh yeah, we'll have a conversation, blah, blah, blah. We should have a list of those with the timelines and contact information so we can all contact each other, build a mailing list of these people, because here's the word they use. Atomize. They probably don't even know that word, but that's what they're trying to do is atomize everyone, meaning you complain, the other person complains, but nobody talks to each other, right? We're all just little atoms and then you said Melinda Katz and Grasso and vote. The thing that's strong about the Jewish community is they vote together. They decide on things and they vote together. And here, like you said, the nonprofits are all at each other's throats, and but yet there's some in favor nonprofits, and then there's the out of favor nonprofits. It's only the out of favor nonprofits that are at each other's throats, right? Or even the in favor ones are saying they're not getting enough money, right? And the key to it is, as you said, the nonprofit industrial complex is part of the government. The nonprofit industrial complex cannot exist without the government, right? Imagine if these seniors and the home and the people without home or the Black veterans for social justice actually had a choice. You think that they would choose a facility that's really falling apart? No, they the one that's close to where I know, right? It doesn't have a kitchen. It doesn't have a backyard. It doesn't have all of it is decrepit, right? And it's hiring its own children against city contracts. And the Department of Investigation, just like the elected people, just they publish indictments or whatever they call it. They're not even indictments, they're just charges. And then no follow-up, nothing. So yeah, I agree with you. The nonprofit industrial complex should be, but we can look at 990, the 990 forms. Everyone can do that. ProPublica 990, and you can see the outrageous salaries that they're paying themselves through your taxpayer money. Something's not right.
Well, that's the way the system's set up, with the did I give you the analogy about the professional sports players last time? No?
No, I don't think so.
So the thing is that we look in professional sports, and you could look at even boxing, right? And sometimes people are taking steroids, and that actually is endangering people's lives, And the thing is that even though some of these boxers are very rich and have a lot of power, they can't stop it from happening unless the industry itself, which includes the viewer, says, you know what, we don't really want to watch these bouts where we have people's lives in danger because of these performance-enhancing drugs. But even with all their power and might, right, they can't stop it from happening because the money dictates. So without us getting involved personally, we cannot clean the system up. Even if Eric Adams is a good guy or a bad guy, he can only do what the game allows. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
We have to change the game itself.
Exactly, the Tour de France too. If you don't drug up, you're not going to win, and nobody wants to watch you. It's exactly what you said, is the viewer. But I think the Tour de France sports is a interesting analogy, but the elections in our government is much, much more important to people's lives. Yet they consider the Yankees as if they're part of the Yankees or the Mets. I literally hear people say, "Did we win today?" I'm saying, you're part of the. Can you show me your paycheck? I want to see New York Mets. You are not part of the team. Wake up. It's the best.
Yeah,
ahead.
and that's another thing about the pro sports analogy. The thing is that there's so much at stake. The thing is that if you have like if you're playing for a professional sports contract and you like don't take those performance enhancing drugs, you might miss out on a couple $1 million the next year on your contract because you didn't score X amount of goals and meet certain, deliverables. So you're under huge pressure. Anything, and this is not a game exactly, this is for more, but because there's even more at stake, there's even more pressure for things to go wrong. So you cannot expect things to be clean in this game at all.
Exactly. Somebody's writing there. Yeah, exactly. You have to. I get the danger of steroids. Thank you, Black Air Force Energy says, but since it's too rampant on the off time, they should just do steroids. But like we're saying when they can do them or when they can't. But they're we went to Costco yesterday. They sell steroids there, like the creams. I don't know if it's the same stuff. But what we were saying about this being deluding people, elections are much more important, so people get involved. It hurts me when people say, oh, I don't want to get involved in politics, but that's your future, your children's future. And when you do that, you're doing when you wash your hands of the whole thing, you're doing exactly what the party machine wants, because they have their operatives that are doing their bidding, right? They're voting, and and so they're gonna win. If you
Well,
do nothing, they're gonna win.
they're comfortable watching their movies,
Yep,
going
yep,
to the restaurant, you know what I mean? And their
yep.
life is, they can do other things with their life, which is normal and which is,
Right.
there's no
And it
marketing to
seems
tell them to learn to take power into their own hands.
and it seems to me that only the people that get hurt somewhat by the system actually wake up, right? So
Yeah.
that's why they want to keep the people like medicated, sedated, right? They don't want them to feel hurt, but they also don't want them to wake up. So they give them the menial tasks, whatever it is, just rake the park. That's why there's so many patronage jobs that are menial and pay very little, or they keep them on bread lines, right? Literally in our neighborhood, I see them. The people actually lock their carts to the bread line. So their cart is locked there all the time. So I think they're saving their space, their spot on the line for the bread line, right? And you know how much time that takes? You got to be on that bread line early, hours and hours early. You got to be on there for hours and hours and hours. I mean, your whole life revolves around eating, just getting food and eating and surviving, right? So who has time to say, well, the Democratic machine is not serving me? They don't have time for that.
There's a lot of different stuff going on with that whole entire sphere of, food giveaways. So that
Yeah,
whole food pantry thing, there's a
yeah.
huge political bent to that, absolutely. So,
There's a
um,
lot of money, and that segues to the budget too. Is you hear Eric Adams. I don't know if you watch him on Twitter. He's constantly saying the big beautiful budget, like Trump. It sounds like Trump, the most beautiful budget ever. And then I respond, which nobody cared, uh, saying, "Well, where's the transparency? The Office of Management and Budget doesn't even publish the numbers. We
yeah,
have open data sets. Nothing."
I have a quick question. The thing is that you have some tools I know to help expose certain things in the government and help with transparency stuff. Can you help look up some of this stuff regarding the what is it? We were talking about like community gardens or this kind of like there's these new efforts, yeah, to do these kinds of things. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just an overview for anyone listening and DJ is the the transparency at the Office of Management and Budget level is what I see in what they publish in these open data sets that we pay millions and millions and millions of dollars for, right, is very high level. Say hi. Someone said hi. Laka. Hi, hi. And so the place where you see the gardens and that's you see that at the discretion. They call it. I don't know why they use these terms, but the city council, and I think we talked about it, gets about for years and years and years, it's been the same amount, $600 million. Even though the budget is skyrocketing, less than $1 billion goes to the city council people, and uh, they get to allocate it, right?
So,
And
quick
so
question
that's
is,
where you can see this, and I
so
do.
yeah.
I can show that. Yeah.
So we was talking about the food pantries and the food giveaways and how they're weaponized by the political system. Who are the biggest players in that field? Who's getting most of the money in terms of that food pantry business? Can you look that up?
Well, we can look up. Yes. Let me just start with this. I'll put a few links in the chat, right in
Okay.
here, and maybe
I
if
think
you
this is the
open
final
them.
episode of our Google. We're using some kind of Google in-house technical thing, but does it allow screen share?
No, when we're doing
Okay,
this, go
they may
live
add that.
together. It doesn't allow screen share, but you can put something in front of the camera,
I
like
bet you they'll
you
add it.
can.
I bet you they'll
Yeah,
add it.
you can. Yeah, we can just do the fake screen share. So what I do is I'll put link in and it's probably better for people to actually click on it, so they get, oh yeah, you could do the green
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
screen. Yeah. Yeah, play around with it, but I'm going to put to answer your question. It's not easy. So people have to be ready for the disgraceful situation that we have. But let me just start with this one, right? This is what the Office of Management and Budget publishes in the open data. I'm going to put that in there. But
Oh, wow.
that one, if you go to it, I don't know what's easier. I could speak about it if you go to it, if you want to go to it.
Oh, I see something in the chat. Yeah. Okay, the
Yeah, in the
budget.
chat.
Okay.
Yeah, and if it depends. We could just talk about it. That's
Yeah,
an
because we can't
overview.
share it on the screen, so let's just talk about it, I guess.
Exactly. People can go to it, but I can put there's a whole kinds of videos about it. You just go to my YouTube channel and just look for shorts. And he keeps asking, y'all talking about what does WT mean? What?
That means WTF. What the F are you talking about?
Oh, did the F get removed? Because
Well,
on my screen it just
sometimes
says
you
what.
don't have the F or what the H, right? It could be what the H. So
Okay, so we're just going to say it's about New York City budgets and politics and
yeah,
elections. It's about your future if you live in New York State or New York City or in America. So that one gives the overview of the Office of Management and Budget level. But that thing's in the billions and billions of dollars, and it'll literally have something like lump sum $6 billion. It gives no details. But this one, I can give one that gives more detail. Let me just try to find it here. I think it's this one. Copy. And remember, their goal, the elected people's goal is not transparency. It's obfuscation as much as possible. Now, I'm going to go to this just to see if it actually is the
yeah.
right
Just
link.
for like a lot of the candidates that I talk to and stuff, I feel like a lot of them don't really understand the importance of the budget. The thing is that often the budget will go down quickly right after you're elected. Usually, a budget cycle starts like kicking into place, and this is done on purpose to prevent people like who are newly elected from actually interfering in the business that's going on, or to really like learn about it so quick or to impact it. So it's really much better in your stead if you really think that you have a realistic chance of winning, of understanding what's going on, who the players are, and being able to cut deals immediately, like because it's going to go down real quick as soon as you're elected.
Oh, absolutely, yes. They're already talking about deals. I mean, they probably are doing it Yeah, but that's why the people contribute to the campaigns. That's why the real estate people are there, because just in case, they're betting on everybody. So I am okay. So this one is showing. I see. This is showing the discretionary funding, right? And it's showing the big numbers. So you said something like food. What did you say? Food pantry?
Food pantry, right? Or like when people do the food giveaways, because I know a lot
Yeah.
of not-for-profits
I
do. I know politicians do it.
This thing is sorted by large numbers. So the food pantries, they go into detail. So there is a Google
Okay.
sheet that
Is there
I
a way to
created.
sort by to see like who's getting the largest contracts and who's getting the big money out of that?
Okay, so I'm looking at this, and I think this is in millions of dollars. And at some point, there was Meals on Wheels getting $4.5 million for. So these are the big guys. Food costs for senior centers, Meals on Wheels. So in all of the history, of course, they don't disclose this for the current years except in an Excel sheet. So we'd have to go. But you're asking for the big players, right?
Yeah.
And the link I just put in there actually gives the big players, right? $4.5 million is big for this discretionary allocation,
Yeah.
right? And so that's what I'm seeing. Meals on Wheels. They're getting a lot of money back in 2010. So that was, but we'd have to know, yeah, Meals on Wheels. It looks like they fell out of favor because back in 2010, what was that? That was Bloomberg, right? The Brooklyn Library back in 2000. Yeah, because let me just find that spreadsheet because I do have a spreadsheet. All this is documented in the city council, but it's so poorly done that, you know what they actually do? They just give you a link to a spreadsheet and say, good luck, figure it out yourself. Unbelievable.
Incumbent advantage is huge because they have these
Yeah, oh yeah,
relationships with
their advantage.
all these groups.
Because you know what their task in life is? To set up more campaign finance matching funds to get their resume or their next job lined up because they have term limits, to make sure that the person in the office is the next person there, right? Because they want to keep
I
their.
can't even necessarily blame them because that's the way the
Oh,
game's set up.
oh, absolutely.
That's the
Yes.
way the game
I
is.
agree.
You know what I mean? Just like in pro sports, like it's dirty. Like I can't even if they wanted to be clean, they can't compete.
I couldn't agree more.
I'm sorry to say.
This is not an it's an indictment of me, of not doing enough to bring
Are we
light
doing
to this.
well, we're
Right?
doing what we can, right? We're doing what if we need more people to step up, so and
Yes,
we'll help clean
yes,
it up.
I agree. And I know that I did this recently for a friend. I showed all the budget. So I want to put that link in there in case anybody cares. But it looks like it's hard to distract people to this because they're so tied into sport or film or whatever it is. Yeah. So let
Well,
me
those
just
things are
search.
dying, right? Because of corporate schlock. So everything's a sequel, and basketball's boring to watch now. So everything's getting destroyed by corporate crap.
Yep, you're right. And
So
okay,
yeah,
so I'll put this video. I'm researching. Okay, there's a video. I'm trying to see. I know I wrote to my friend, but the point is that there is. If you search on the internet, here's something for the people to know. Google kind of tends towards uh, honoring the government sites. So people should know, especially when they're using YouTube or they're listening to news. I tend to stay away from the mass media things. I'd rather have a real person describe it, even if I don't agree with it. I'd rather have a real person on the ground, and you could tell the difference because it's WABC or WNBC, and I stay away from them, and I don't even like the big talking heads of whoever it is now who's got millions and millions of followers. I'd rather go to somebody who has 100 followers, right? Because they are a real person, and
just the people that
and
bewitch
and
you.
Go ahead.
not the ones that they give you.
Say again.
I said trust the people that be with you, not the ones that they give you.
Exactly. And Google it's got to tend towards government. So what'll happen is if you search for, let's say you search for unofficial New York city council videos, you're going to find all the government sites at the top because already Google says, oh, it's council. Yeah. And yet I create a YouTube page that's all their videos, even their outtakes, all their mistakes in one place. Right. And that'll be way down on the list. So I recommend people go keep searching down with YouTube or with Google. Go to the second page, the third page, the fourth page. There's where the real people are. And the other one is the what was it? The budget and YouTube. Yeah, there was another point I wanted
Oh, by the
to.
way, if I could just for a moment say, I have actually just gotten the URL NYC Street Activist, I think, or maybe NYCactivist.com. I have to look it up again. But anyways, I'm actually collecting. I know that you have actually quite a few resources yourself to help people like look up like property stuff and other things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
If
I
you
would love to.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
would love.
for anybody who's watching too, if you have a resource that you want to share with the rest of the community, hit up DGL7 at DGL7.com, and I will add that to my online list of resources for activists.
Absolutely, that's a really cool thing. And as we said, YouTube, Google, they are kind of above the fray. I kind of say that they're above the fray, but they still have to tend towards deferring to the New York Times, or none of these people are your friends. The government's not your friend. Oh, I did want to mention that I spoke to people in the, the in the know kind of that listen to the hearings, and I try to listen to the hearings, and and I think I mentioned that Justin Brannan, our chairman of the finance committee in New York City Council, he was on our street, and he literally, I said, and I mentioned this, we need one place to see the budget, the details. And he said, we don't even have that. Then imagine that our own city council person doesn't have access to the budget, right? And they have to beg and plead. This is what's happening. The budget that just passed, I put the details. I'll put it again in the links. Uh, Literally has transparency that's like concrete. You know how transparent concrete is?
Well, no one's
That's
gonna, right? The thing is that the news is not going to cover this particular issue because they're actually in bed with the party leadership. So the fact of the matter is that what you said is actually quite newsworthy. Did anybody pick it up, that news story? Because it sounds politically relevant, but they won't report on it, right?
absolutely not, because we can show in the campaign finance that's disclosed, that's only the actual campaigns, not the independent spenders, that $1 billion has already been spent on ads. So there's absolutely no incentive for, in fact, Citizens United, like my friend lives in Canada, right? And they're not allowed to spend more than like whatever, $10,000 on a campaign. But in America, there's no limit at all. And I have a feeling that one of the things we're going to start tracking is election spending as part of GDP, right? What if we make the election spending 50% of GDP? What if America's actual product is election garbage? Yeah. Oh, America is the greatest producer of election garbage. 50% of the world's election garbage is produced by America. Like, wow. So I did want to mention this. Here's a question I have for you, right? If you are in this matching funds program, right? People should be aware that if you've never contributed to a campaign, you have contributed enormous amounts, even if you've never contributed a penny, because your tax dollars are going to it. In New York City's case, 8-1. In New York State, I think it's 8-1. But let's make it simple. Let's make it 9-1, right? Let's have a theoretical case. And I'm a campaign, right? And I don't think this is legal, but let's say someone contributes to my campaign and I get $100. Let's keep it really simple, the numbers, and it's a 9-to-1 match. So now I have $1,000 in my campaign, right? And I decide to, my campaign has decided to contribute to your campaign, right? Let's say, DJ, you have a campaign, and then you get that same match. I hope this is not the case. I hope this is not allowed. But now you have $1,000, and you say to yourself, "Let me contribute back $100 to my campaign." Right?
Well,
So now
actually,
I have two
if you look
thousand
at the
dollars.
if you look at the list of candidates and their campaign finance, which I bet you have, you'll see that candidates are donating to each other all the time.
Yes, but if they get matched, imagine
Yeah,
what's happening here. I just
exactly. Well,
let's
this is exactly, but they're in on it not only to also to multiply their money, which is definitely happening between them, but they're also using it to qualify for right. They got to get a certain number of donations in at a certain amount, right? So they're also helping themselves to achieve those numbers as well. So it's achieving multiple ends at the same time while making them massively wealthy.
right, but I want to double check, and I the people out
Yeah.
there in the wonderful internet,
Well, that money
if
can be
a
used to pay staff or other things like that, right? That money can be used to pay for consultants or for, it can be disappeared in a lot of different ways that we can vamoose and poof into, patronage jobs.
absolutely, but the deep question is, if one campaign contributes to another campaign, that should not be matched. Absolutely not. That's not an individual. That's not somebody from New York City. That's one campaign contributing to another campaign. That should not be matched.
There
And
are
I
some
think
rules
that's the
that are
law.
around that, but then there's also like this idea of, I think the technical term is like a straw donor, right?
Yeah,
But
oh
there's,
yes.
yeah, so, the people they make rules and then people find ways around those rules.
Right.
That's why,
And
yeah. You
and the straw donor thing is a big problem because literally you can just where in the world does any company make a 8-to-1 match? You walk into Starbucks, right, and you buy whatever it is. I hate using Starbucks, so you walk into the local store, the corner store that's owned by a person, a real person, and you buy something. Does the store owner get 8 times the amount that you buy? Yes or
No,
no?
no.
No. In fact, he's got a tax. He's got a
There's
negative,
there's no
right? He's got,
business that pays out like this. None.
it's exponential growth, right? Why don't they just make it 100-to-1? Well, 100 to 1 match. Why stop at 8? Why
This
not
the sad
10? Why
truth
not
is
100?
the
Why not
sad
a
truth is
thousand?
that the sad truth is that in some ways it is actually because of the way that the government is also intertwined with it. It's actually multiplied in ways that people don't really actually realize because it's like a self um, you know, enforcing model between academia, affluence, and the party elites on both sides are in on this.
And the
Both,
complex,
yeah,
the
and the
nonprofit
consultants
industrial complex. Yeah.
all together, yeah. And then exactly the people who were elected, they can't run anymore, so they get like a cushy job within this kind of consultant agency firm slash, both.
Italian, they call it sinecure, means without care. They don't have any cares anymore. They just get a sinecure. I think the church calls it that too, or something. It's disgusting. It's really disgusting. And you know what it does? It hurts people like you and me, right? That actually produce something, or actually care, or actually, the children that are growing up today. They either have to be corrupt or
Well, I think it's natural though. It's natural because the thing is that the regular person is not paying or not asking anybody to like look out for their interests. They're actually just doing whatever's day to day what the TV tells them is like,
yep,
a
yep.
normal
Oh,
for life, right? Go and work for somebody else, come back
did,
home, right? Yeah, play
did
some
you
video
hear?
games or something, watch some
Did you
sports,
did you
go to sleep.
did you hear? Speaking of that, did you hear the Homer Simpson one where Homer and Marge are leaving the house, and he says to the kids, uh, "Kids, be good, uh, watch the TV, and go to sleep when it says." When the TV tells them to go to sleep. What?
Hey, it's easy, right?
The babysitter
People
is
love
the TV.
convenience. Yeah.
Wait, say it again.
They say the one thing that Americans are afraid of is inconvenience, right? So this is actually can be weaponized, and we'll see exactly where that goes. So
Right.
can we keep it under control? We'll see. It's very
Yeah.
so.
I I want to be respectful of your good graces. So you tell me if you want to continue or whatever. I enjoy every moment, and it's been a pleasure. You know.
Well, I think we have something unique here, right? Because you're actually a Democrat, county committee person, and I'm a Republican county committee person. I think this is actually a very unique show.
Yes,
I know that right now it's not really particularly something that the algorithm is picking up, or something that the masses are really ready to appreciate at the moment. But as we work on more relevant things, such as the mother pigeon thing, is actually a fun video I just came out with. But I actually have a video coming out on the largest, what is it called? The largest mobilization of Asian Americans in New York City history, and that actually is going on right now. So I refer about Chinese Americans getting arrested over by Sheepshead Bay, which is interesting. So that's also part of the Eric Adams thing coming up, and also with the primaries and the election coming up. I think it's worth doing this program at least till then, and maybe even
absolutely.
further. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
but
whatever you. If you want to move it to a different or cap it on both or whatever. And
well,
I
one
just
thing
want
I
to
would
thank.
like to see is, just so you know, I sent an email out earlier. I don't know how you feel about this, or maybe how it's working, but I actually invited some people from the Democrat county committee that I know personally to be a part of the show, to write, so we can like expand. And I'm gonna find some people from the Republican Party and see if they would also be a part of meeting together in this program. I think it would make things more interesting, right? To see more county committee people, and for the people who's watching to get a better understanding of what's going on behind the scenes here.
Absolutely. And what I'd like to do is document every vote that these county committee organizational meetings have. It's not good enough to just videotape the thing. We need a list of all the votes, how many proxy votes, who is voting the proxies, all that.
Hey, by
And
the way, quick question. Recently, oh, which county committee are you in? You're in the Manhattan one?
no, I'm Brooklyn. Yeah,
Okay.
the worst.
Do you ever go to the other county committee meetings besides the Brooklyn one, or do you just go to the Brooklyn one?
I've watched the Manhattan one because I know Theo and Mike Hanno, but no,
Okay.
I've never attended. I want to. I I've been on the outside for so long. I didn't even know these things happen. So, and I don't like to go to some place where everybody hates everybody. So, if I have some friends, I'll go.
Okay.
But if I go and I'm the only one there and I have no idea what's happening, I don't like to go. And that's what they want.
A lot of big time drama goes down
Yeah.
at the county committee things. For example, when I was in Brooklyn, I think that they somehow something was wrong with the machine or something, and they didn't start it for like 3 hours late, and then they kind of rushed some votes through, and then I don't know if you were there for that one, and then
Which one?
Manhattan.
The Marriott one? I live streamed one at the Marriott.
No, I think it
The
was by
most
Coney
recent.
Island. It was by the beach.
Say again? Oh,
It
that
was
was
by Coney
way
Island. Yeah,
long ago. That was
yeah,
the Coney Island one. Yeah, I didn't
yeah.
attend that one, but you
Okay.
attended that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was
It was,
like I think 6 years ago. I think.
yeah, they didn't start like that for like 3 hours or something, and then yeah, it's been a while since I've been to the county committee meetings and some other ones, but that's one that I remember that was in Brooklyn. And then the thing is that the also the Manhattan one was also decided. The leadership of the party was decided by 8 votes. Who's in charge? By the way, who's in charge in the Brooklyn Democrats?
Right now, it's according to the party itself. If you mean the party boss, it's this person named Bichette, some
Okay, that's
person
the
in
Brooklyn party
Marcy
boss.
area. Say
That's the
again.
Brooklyn County party boss.
Yes, it's a
Interesting.
lady.
Okay.
She's somehow an assembly person, a full-time law student, and I think she's pregnant. And her husband is a lobbyist and works as a strategic director in New York City. Completely illegal. He had to resign. This is what, and it was handed over by hand. It was handed over by Frank Sedio. And now Frank Sedio is speaking of that, I want to end with Frank Sedio. I watch him at these judicial things. He's still dancing with the stars. You know, literally, the guy, I think he's almost 80 now. He's got, and you saw, I don't know if you saw the video where he's trying to tear the heart out of another county committee person and a so-called district leader, so-called. He's literally, just search on Google, everybody, for Frank Sedio attacking David Schwartz. You know, and you got him there. He's trying to strangle David Schwartz. Like, and these are the characters. And I put on my poll, I simply said, do you want these characters running the elections? Because Frank Sedio is the commissioner for the Board of Elections for Brooklyn. What?
There's when you look at professional sports, right? The thing is that if someone doesn't make the professional sports league, there's a lot of people in the minor leagues, right? That are, you know, the difference is that they're paying to play versus making millions of dollars a year. So there's just so much at stake. So it might seem comical that these people are at each other's throats, but when you think about it, this is not a game. And while there's millions at stake in professional sports, there's billions at stake, maybe even more, right? At stake here. So
exactly. Right.
yeah.
People say, oh, it's just clowns. I won't justify their system by, you know, by registering as a Democrat or something. And saying, no, it's not their system. It's our system. It's not theirs. They don't have a system. They just have the lackadaisical attitude and the distractions. That's what they have. They have the fact that it's democracy requires constant vigilance. It's just like driving a car, right? It requires 100% of your attention all the time when you're driving, right? The same with democracy. It requires 100% of your attention all the time. Now, everybody can't do that.
But the only people that are going to stay focused are the people that are in pain. The people without pain, there's no urgency. So the fact of the matter is that a majority will not be able to control this government. The minority of people that are interested and focused will. So,
and it turns out the pain.
I'll play by any rules.
Exactly.
I'll play by any rules.
What by any rules?
I'll play by any rules.
Exactly. That's what I tell my friends.
But the rules are given to me by the society.
Exactly. And that's what I say, my friend. He says, you're getting corrupt. I said, when in Rome, you have to do as the Romans do. and it's exactly what you said, is the people that are hurt by the system wake up, right? They start to fight it. But there is another class of people that are in the system and are getting patronage and paid by the system, right?
Well,
they're the ones that run the system. And they're the ones that want to keep the number of pained people low and the number on the bread lines high, because the ones on the bread lines actually think, oh my God, I have to vote so-and-so because that's how my food, my housing, that's how otherwise I'm out. I have nothing. And instead you can wake up and take a step back and say, why am I on a bread line? Why is these other characters riding around in limousines? You know what they're called, right? The ones that are patronage people are the limousine liberals, right? And the ones that are on the bread lines are the poor, like not limousine. They don't go around in limousines.
They realize at some point, right, that they're part of a hypocrisy, but they cannot actually implicate themselves, which is fair. They need a place in the movement, right? Because this movement cannot cancel them, which is fair. But the thing is that they become uncomfortable, they become used to a certain way of being treated that cannot. The poor have to fight for themselves, so which they're often not doing. So,
right? Because they're too
of this,
It's not easy for the poor, right? If you're on bread lines 10 hours a day, if you're worried about where am I going to get the next, lollipop or whatever it is. And on top of it, who are the most unhealthy eaters? It turns out that if you look at it, the low cost foods are the most unhealthy foods, right? It's just horrible what we're doing. So we're creating a generations and generations of people that are dying of diabetes. It's just horrible. It's just horrible. And yeah, I don't absolve anyone, but it, exactly what you said. It's just horrible. It's just horrible. So
You know,
let's
I'm not really so ready to implicate. Um, you know, I think a lot of people have to really take a lot of self responsibility as in terms of like the foods and the obesity epidemic, which I'm actually overweight right now. But the thing is that I know you're a marathon runner, so you've taken actually you know, a lot of people just never compensated. Like that's amazing, right? But as in terms of the food choices and stuff like that, when you're actually mm, the thing is that like some foods, right, like have like a longer shelf life and things like that. They often have preservatives and stuff like that, and they're easy and ready to eat versus right like salads, which might take a little bit more work. And they do sell actually a lot more salads that are now pre-bagged, but they still have the once again the dressing inside the packages that has to have the longer shelf life for convenience. So once again, there's a lot of this convenience factor that really steps up, right? Prepping your own food, and then really once, really the problem necessarily isn't necessarily so much the food itself, but the quantity that we eat, right? The fact of the matter is that we can eat actually huge quantities of calories that weren't really available before. You can also sit around and be lazy. So it's like a mixture of issues. I don't want to just appropriate all and blame the industry 100%. The industry is also catering to our own demand and our own. So once again, if we actually as society say, you know what, we're going to change how we, you know, consume things or how we understand things, the industry will come to match our expectation and our demands. And not even like
absolutely.
a demanding like protest wise, but demand like in terms of what we truly want and desire and what we're paying attention to.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I'm a member of a Park Slope Food Co-op, right? Do you know how big the store is? It's pretty small. It's
Yeah.
like it's just really two buildings, typical buildings in on Union Street, I think it's Union Street, right? And it has everything I need, right? Everything, right? And if you go into Wegmans or some of these Whole Foods or Costco, it's like, why is it 7, 10, 100 times bigger? Because it's got all that processed food in it. So that, like you said, as you said, the processed foods don't go bad. They can
Yeah.
last for years and years and years on the shelf. So there's no penalty for just fill the place with all this processed food, and then it's convenient. You know, I cook. I think that it's an insult to people's intelligence that we have to get Fresh Direct. Well, Fresh Direct is better than others, but literally, is it so hard to cut celery? Is it so hard to like? Oh, come on! My mom always said it was so hard to cook, but literally, you get a pressure cooker and you put a few things in it, a few vegetables, and just steam it for like 10 minutes, and it's great. Like
They
I,
can,
I
but
don't think.
there's more fun things to do. There's other things, right? They could be on the internet. They could be scrolling their feed, right? Now, cooking is actually competing with so many other things that are just fun to do, you know?
But what's the most? We could end with this. The most high priority. I talk to my son, right, and I say, what are the most high priority things in the world, right? Breathing, right? Air, clean air. You need clean air. What do you need next? Because if you don't have air, you're going to die in a few minutes, right? What's the next one? Water, clean water. Because if you don't drink water within a few days, you're going to die, right? What's the next one? Sleep. Sleep comes in third. And this is my list. Everyone can have their own list. Sleep. If you don't sleep properly, you're harming yourself, right? Eventually, that's going to catch up to you. And then food also. Food is next because in 3 days or 4 days, you start harming your body if you don't eat, right? And then what's the next one is exercise. Here's an interesting thing that I listen to, right? exercise is a very tricky thing, right? Because if you don't exercise for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, you're not going to die, you know, but you're harming yourself in the long term, right? So in exercise, here's the last point is exercise not only is good for your body, but it's good for your brain. It's practically more important for your brain than it is for your body, and for your muscles, right? Because
Yeah.
exercise and fresh air and climbing and hiking and biking and running, and you don't even have to run. You said I'm a marathoner, but I don't run as much anymore because biking and walking are better for me because I'm older, right? And so people don't have to kill themselves. They don't have to go out and run. And running is not killing yourself. You can walk fast. So I'll end with that.
Hey,
Those are the
quick thing I
5 or
want
whatever number of priorities.
quick thing I'm gonna throw on the end of that is you ever study something in school called the Krebs cycle?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So the thing is that for people that took like biology, right, like basic biology, you have your oxidative path, right, which is actually this it's also called the Krebs cycle, which is like I think like 8, 9, something like that, right? Different little subsets. And those little subsets actually break off into a lot of other different pieces in biochemistry. So the thing is that when you're eating like certain foods, right, like you're not just getting fats, you're also getting all different types of fats, different proteins. And these things can be processed through this Krebs cycle thing. So the thing is that with your biochemistry, right, when you go through fasting or actually exercise and cause right certain it's like an engine, but it's running on different pieces of fuel, right? Not just fats, but also, like I said, amino acids, things like that. And you're biochemically you're having to process those things and engage mechanisms, and that's healthy for your body to actually, exercise going through different pathways and engaging them. But if you never, right, if you really get it set into certain habits that never cause those biomechanical pathways to be activated, they kind of get atrophied and things become out of balance. So you want to have some variance in, right? It's very easy to kind of like get into this kind of like homogenous kind of lifestyle where everything's kind of like you sit in one place, you're doing one thing, and you can get locked into a rhythm. Like you're eating the same food all the time. It's very convenient and easy, but your body's meant to have some variety, right? And when there's supposed to be some like a little bit of food shortage, right? And your body's adapted to go through these biomechanically. And if you shortchange that, just something to think about. So
Yeah, exactly. I just want to add to that because I listen to doctors, right? And the way the word evolved from monkeys, right, and from literally from rats and from cells, right, and the way the monkeys worked in the original caveman, right, was they would have feast or famine. It wasn't as if they went to the Whole Foods and they had a refrigerator in their house and they had a toilet. They didn't have any of that, right? So they either feasted when they caught something, or they got a lot of whatever it is, I guess potatoes or whatever. They were really tiny, right? They would either feast or famine, right? And then the winter, it was really hard. The winter time, they didn't have anything, right? So they
yeah,
had to survive the winters. But the doctor said this. He said, now winter never comes. We never have a food winter, right? Because we're eating constantly. So to put it scientifically, there's something called insulin spikes. When your body eats, this insulin spikes up, right? Because the body has to process, right? And at certain
well,
point, if you're eating, go ahead, if you're
there's,
eating
there's
constantly,
something interesting, right? The thing is that also remember that humans are one of the only, well, actually, is the only animal to really prepare food with fire. And what that does is that'll take like certain, complex carbohydrates and break them down more towards sugary. That's why when you eat like the crust of a bread, it tastes a little bit sweet, right? So the thing
the
is
what?
that
The crust of the what? Oh,
the crust of
go ahead.
the crust of the bread tastes a little bit sweeter. It's because the
Right,
sugars have actually browned, right? The main
right.
artifact, things like that. So the thing is that when we talk about, right, this the food that we eat. Remember, our brains are supported by, right? We're actually a finely tuned instrument, right, with our brains, because we're allowed to have certain nutrients that we've actually, without the advent of cooking and preparing foods in agriculture, right, with a more steady food supply, our well, actually, right, our brains did develop before potentially agriculture, but it's related.
It got
So
bigger. Yeah, the brain got
yeah,
bigger. Yeah.
right, because it's supported by this type of but we've gotten the food thing down to such a science, right? With prepping and making and refining nature to the point where we can process it easier, right, by cooking things like that. Um, that we're starting to break on the other end, right? So we have to make sure we stay in balance. Our body's meant to get exercise once again. Um, certain physiological parts, our body and our mind is connected. When your body is sick, your mind is affected, and vice versa. So,
And and one of the reasons I try to fast regularly is because of the insulin spikes. If you keep your insulin level high all the time, eventually insulin stops working.
oh, you
The
get
body,
diabetes.
the pancreas says, I don't care how much insulin you have, I'm not processing it. And then the blood sugar level goes astronomical, and you're gonna die. Like it's as simple as that. So you want to have the feast and famine thing every day. I try to, I try. Fasting for me is a little bit hard because if I fast for a couple days, I drop so much weight that my doctor starts saying, "Oh, you're dying." So, so I try to eat like once a day, right? I cook, I eat once a day, and that's it for me. I'm not, but even I talk to some of my relatives in Italy, right? And they think it's ridiculous that Americans and the American tourists, they're eating all the time. They're eating while they're walking. They're eating. The people in Italy like that's disgusting. Like what the these pigs, and just they don't do that, even though it's a land of food, right? But they don't die of heart disease like we do.
Hey, you know what? I gotta say, Italian food might be a little better than American food. I don't know. Yes, so
I think
maybe
so.
that's
Yeah,
also why. So I know it's I make apology for my peoples out there in Italy that gobbling down food because I might be one of them. If I ever get to Italy, I plan
yeah.
on gobbling down some food myself.
Yeah, yeah. Once
I'm
in a
really
while is
excited about it.
okay, but you have to have a lifestyle where
I
it's
feel
in balance. And
yeah,
I want to add the one last point is the Maillard reaction is exactly right. That is the one thing that makes it taste. You want that browned bread and toast, but be aware that that same process is creating acrylamides in the food. It's
yeah.
carbohydrates when above 250 degrees Fahrenheit creates these acrylamide. Acrylamides are plastics. Like how in the world does that happen? I don't know. And it seems like a fiendish part of nature that the one thing that tastes better is the one that's and then of course the industry will not talk about this because they're going to say, well, there's no study that shows that this happens to humans. It does kill rats, but it may not kill humans. Who knows?
You know what it is actually. I'll tell you. The thing is that you ever see like sometimes deer, they'll actually like lick salts and things like that, right?
Yes.
Or they'll eat dirt because there's certain minerals that they need, so that you have an urge for it. So sometimes you
Yeah.
might have an urge for a certain type of food, whatever, right? You just have a craving for that because there's
Yes.
certain nutrients in there like potassium or phosphates. You might not actually know, but you'll have a craving. So the thing is that when you eat certain foods that are rich, right? When you take a look at like maybe like breads and stuff, right? Like the Maynard reaction, your body's getting the sensation of different sugars at the same time, which gives it a feeling of richness. That's why
Right.
certain foods, right? Like eat like maybe like a cracker, it has a bland taste versus some foods have a very rich feeling and you feel like you're getting a whole bunch of nutrients at once.
That
So
that's why
yeah,
they put
that's
salt. They put salt on the top because your tongue uh, detects the salt right away, right?
yeah.
And
Also,
the rest is
it's excitatory, right? So the thing is, sodium, right, causes an excitation of the nerves. So it
yeah,
kind of like it's like an accent. It says like whatever is here is like more of it. What I mean, it feels like more and more intense, and
right.
that's
And
really yeah,
what I do is I buy garlic, and you know what the thing in garlic? It's related to sulfur. Onions and garlic, they all have this sulfur component, or I forget the name of it. It's a um, okay,
yeah,
Google. What
yeah. That's
is
all
the
fine.
Yeah, it's sulfides, but it's also as what is the flavor component in garlic?
On the
So okay.
website famousdirect.com, it's saying diallosulfide, a flavor component present in garlic, has been found to play a role in
Sulfides, yeah.
toxicity and carcinogenicity in animal models.
Yeah, so there's this I forget the name they use, but it's but yeah, that I think people should consider garlic because garlic is natural, and instead of putting salt on everything, salt at moderation is good. You need salt, But the one thing I stay away from is all sugar, all direct added sugar. And if you want, I'll tell the last story. Is my son also looks for sugar, right? And he says, "Papa, look, there's no added sugar." And you know what he's got? He's got a well, like it's a pure sugar. I forget what it was, but it was some candy, and it had no added sugar
Yeah,
because it was
it is
100% sugar. It was
Yeah,
all
yeah,
sugar, yeah. But they didn't add any sugar. It's like, oh my God, that's so misleading. But and he said, and from that he derived that it's healthy because it has no
of
added
course,
sugar.
of course. It's natural. It's natural. Yeah.
Completely. Oh, and it's even better when they say pure sugar or pure cane sugar. I think, what are you talking about? In
If
fact,
they have something to
war.
gain by doing this, then if they have something to gain by doing it, they're gonna do it. Like how could they not? Like that's their livelihoods, that's their
Doctor,
money. They're gonna
yeah,
do it. Yeah.
Dr. McDougall, who passed away recently, said it best. He said, "People like to hear good news about their bad habits. Like they want to
Yeah.
hear." Like what was it that something diet where they said just eat raw meat all day long. You just eat raw meat. Oh great. Or the chocolate diet. Just eat chocolate. You can live on potato chips and chocolate. Oh yeah, great. Yeah.
Yeah. People have the aspirational selves and they have their true selves, and
Yeah.
the two things don't always line up. So oh well.
Yeah. Let's end it there if you want.
All right, that's cool. Hey, it's a good show again.
Yeah.
And then
Peace
we'll see where
out.
this goes. I'll try to meet some people. I don't think I'll actually meet the other county committee members. I'll see if I can get them to come on the show though. I'll put the
We
call
get
out
it.
in my newsletter.
We can do a bigger one with more people if you want. Yeah. But it's always hard to generate, to coordinate all these people. And they all have everything is so important. People are so self-important. And I
Hey,
consider myself open to everything, right?
is
So
this the only existing show with Republican and Democrat, like, elected officials, like actually doing something together on a regular basis?
oh, that's a good point. I don't consider myself anything, but I do serve in the
Technically
county
you are.
committee
Technically
as
you
a
are.
witness. Say again.
Technically you are.
Technically I am. And
And
also
I'm gonna be, so
I
I think
serve
it's
as a
yeah.
I serve as a witness, right? I want to witness and document what's happening for future generations, right? But yes, I think it's a good idea. We know a lot of county committee people in Manhattan for sure. You
Yeah.
know Mike Hanno, Theo, all these people. But I
Maybe
think it's a good.
I think we're the only show of Republican and Democrat together on a regular basis. Is that true?
Well, I know Curtis gets on the air with some fake Democrat, right? The
On a regular basis?
firing line or whatever they call it. Yeah, there's some
Maybe that's
big
cool.
thing.
Okay, I'm not mad at that. That's good. Okay, that's good. I hope so.
Yeah, there definitely is I don't know if Curtis does it all the time, but what I would like, since we bring up Curtis, is that the Republican Party actually work with people like us, right, to try to strengthen other parties. But here's what's actually happening: the Republican Party and the Democrat Party are in cahoots. And they're trying to crush any other opposition. You know why? Because the Constitution, New York State Constitution, allows only two parties in the Board of Elections. There's only the two top parties are the commissioners for the Board of Elections. So that gives these Republicans in New York City an inordinate amount of power. Do you know that they pick the executive of the county of the Board of Elections? You know the Mike Ryan person who's the executive, who's pretty open, right? he is practically picked by the Republican because they have an equal number of votes, even though they have no way the number of people, right? If you look for the county committee for the Republican Party, most of them are blank. Most of them. And
There's a
the
lot of
people,
weird stuff going on. Like, there's a lot of people that are kind of like, I'm still trying to like figure it out. So I'm gonna start to get introduced to these people. I'm sure. I
Yeah.
have not actually met them yet. I have a feeling
I
some of
would,
them are figuring out.
well, I'll ask one last question is if you know any Republican county committee members in North Brooklyn, I'd like to meet them and invite them because that would be great.
I know what I know. Like, I met a couple of them. Some of them act real weird. Like, some of them I do know. North Brooklyn. I think I might know someone. Let me see. I have two.
The
I
reason why
probably
they're
know
gonna,
acquaintance.
the reason why they're going to act weird is they do not want to disclose the fact that they have a very minority amount of people in New York City, but yet they have 50% of the control of the Board of Elections. They don't want.
Oh, yeah.
Say again.
Well, that's why I'm there. I think they know this too. So
Thank you, thank
yeah,
you,
what it is. So
thank you, DJ, and we'll say peace out,
all right,
everybody.
all right, cool.
Thank
Coming
you.
up. Thanks again. Have a good one.
All right, bye, bye.